Today, I'm going to share with you all of my favorite builds in the entire game for several different activities that I like to do. Let's get started. The very first build is going to be a solo open world fame farming build with spiked gauntlets. Here's what they look like. Now, let me explain what's going on your screen here. You see the phrase Q2, and you may be wondering, what does Q2 mean, okay? Q2 means that I'm using the Q ability from Spiked Gauntlets, but I'm using the second Q ability. So this would be Q1, this would be Q2, Q3, and Q4. So you can see here I have Q2, W1, and then passive 1. This means that I'm using the second Q ability, the first W ability, and the first passive on the weapon. Alright, so this looks like this, okay? I'm using 8.3, and the E spell does a tremendous amount of damage to mobs, 1,509 to these target dummies. The W does even more damage, and then the Q does even more. You auto-attack, doing a taser from your Thetford cape, and your Cultist Cowl sends out a bolt that does tremendous damage to monsters. So just in one sweep of my abilities, I've dealt over 4,192 damage to this target dummy. Alright, so Cultist Cowl is the helmet, looks like this. Then we have the Druid robe. Now, you can use any cloth robe. I almost never use this ability. But if I do need to buff up, this is the highest DPS chest piece in the entire game, and that's why we run it. Royal Sandals also great because it increases your damage, increases your run speed in case you're dismounted. Thetford Cape for damage, Beef Stew for damage, which is not shown in this. I didn't eat the stew, sorry. And then Healing Potion in case I need to heal. I also forgot to mention, but I do use the Black Panther because the sprint abilities. Like, say these are a pack of mobs, so that's going to kill all the mobs, and then I can immediately mount up and then sprint to the next pack of mobs, which is way faster than galloping on any other mount because it's short term. I'll hit another pack of mobs, do some karate kicks and some slides and some uppercuts, and then they're dead. And that's how I farm open world mobs very quickly. Next up, for soloing static zone fame farming, a static zone is an area that is always the same on the map, so when you open your map, if you go to these little dungeons here, you'll see that this is a static zone called the Undead Dungeon. So whenever you go to this area is meant for groups of players, but if you have the proper gear and the proper specialization and the proper item power, as in very good high-level gear, you can solo this, and this is what I use to solo it. I use the Shadow Collar with Q3 and W4 passive 1. And this is what it looks like. I cast a puddle on the ground, and I do some auto attacks. And then I cast another puddle. I cast my E, my W, and it just melts the HP. Look at the damage done. In just QWE, I'm already like near 5k on that guy, 5.2k on that guy. It is a very powerful and dangerous build. But because they are group monsters, they are meant for groups, and you are not a tank. This is where the helmet comes in. The Scholar Cowl gives me an energy shield, which reduces damage taken and restores mana. Not that we have mana problems when we have higher level gear. The Hellion Jacket gives you a life-stealing aura, which will absorb life around you and heal you. It deals damage in a circle, so it's just good for extra damage. If I eat my roast pork, all my attacks life-steal, including that Hellion Jacket, so it's even more healing to myself. Guardian Boots allows me to grow big, which doubles my health, which effectively means I'm still taking the same amount of damage while my health is now doubled. So when I return to normal, my health will adjust accordingly, meaning I only took half damage during the duration. So, I also use Thetford Cape for more damage, I use the Healing Potion and Crypt Candle for more damage, and I use the Winter Bear because it is one of the tankiest, most affordable high-level mounts with lots of HP and armor, allowing me to massively pull these static mobs, and then kind of group them all together so I can blow them up. Now, I have a more powerful variant that allows me to farm very slightly faster, however, this is only used at very high gear score levels with 8.4, okay? Without it, you will die and you won't deal enough damage, and the only difference is that I replaced the helmet with the Cultist Cowl, same passive and spell as last time, and the armor with Stalker Jacket, which emits an electric field. So let me show you the damage done to this target. We're gonna puddle it, curse it, shock it, puddle it, E, and then W, and look at the damage. It's already 7,800 and climbing because it's cursed. It's up to 8,000 damage already. That is going to absolutely melt mobs to pieces. Alright, this is the high max spec and 8.4 version, which is just slightly more efficient. I have one other version of this solo static farming build, and that is with a Great Axe. The Great Axe will use Q2, W5, and passive 3 for the defenses. And it plays pretty much the same. You cast your W, you cast your Q, and you cast your E, and you'll run around and dodge enemies as you spin. You cast your R when you're low on health, you cast your D and your F spells whenever you're taking damage, and you hit Q whenever it's off cooldown, W whenever it's off cooldown, and you will kill mobs just the same as the other builds, but it is slower. But it is an alternative if you do not have Shadow Caller leveled up. Here is my solo dungeon speed clearing build for new players or players with low item power. It is the Boltcaster build, very famous on my channel. But before I talk about the build, let me just mention, solo dungeons are terrible to do and a complete waste of your time. Solo dungeons only give 6 times less the amount of fame than open world mobs do, and they give 4 times less silver than gathering does. So there is zero reason to ever do a solo dungeon unless you're insanely bored. They are a terrible time investment. There is no reason to do them. Even mapped dungeons, even tier 8.3 dungeons, do not waste your time in solo dungeons. They are slot machines. With that said, let's get into the build. Boltcasters, Q2 and W2. The reason we use Q2 is because it is an area of effect instant cast explosion spell that has a very high refresh rate, and once you've casted 3 abilities, up here at the top left, you'll notice that I can cast it twice in a row, so you are able to stack up massive amounts of damage, and once you have the power, you can one-shot enemies in dungeons, or even two-shot them if they are beefy. Combined with the Druid Robe, this stacks perfectly. So you activate your Druid Robe, and then your Q stacks. Every time you cast your Q ability, you will gain more damage, up to 6 stacks. And so this can be combined with your other items too. I only reached 5 stacks because I wasn't combining my other items, but you also have the Spectre Hood, which will refresh your armor's ability to then keep those 6 stacks stacked up. And then if you happen to get a blue buff in a dungeon, you can stack it up to 3 times without falling off. So you can see here I'm dealing nearly 600 damage per Q shot. This will one-shot so many tier 5 dungeon mobs. Next up we have our W2, which also Thetford Cape, just for the Taze. The W2, what it does is it's a huge armor shred. It's the strongest armor shred in the entire game, and you combine that with your E spell, which is the single highest single target damage spell in the entire game. So on a fully health target dummy, without our Druid Robe, by the way, this is without the Druid Robe, we dealt 4,957 damage with that combo. So now, let's do the combo once again with the Druid Robe. Let me just scroll the text here. You can see, you're going to be using any leather boot. It doesn't matter. You just want that refreshing sprint. It doesn't matter what boots you get. And the Snow Husky is to travel between dungeons quickly. But let's go ahead and buff up our damage now, and I can show you the true power. So R, D, I'm going to Q the ground a few times before I engage the pretend boss. I've got 6 stacks. W into E. So that 4,900 damage is now 6,129 damage in total. Against a boss, that boss will melt. So this build is very suitable for that. The Snow Husky is because it's the fastest mount in the game, combined with its F ability, allows you to go from dungeon to dungeon very, very quickly. Now I want to cover the even faster variant when you have maximum specializations and gear that will save you only 15 seconds per dungeon floor. That's all this saves. It's only that much faster, not by much. And it is the Light Crossbow. I forgot to write down Crypt Candle, but Crypt Candle is your offhand. Light Crossbow with the W3 ability lets you move through the dungeon faster. Most of your damage will be coming from the Spectre Jacket, which is this ability right here. I'm going to show you how to properly use it. You're also going to be using a Royal Sandal, so you will cast Royal Sandals first. Then you will cast your Spectre Jacket, increasing its damage, and you will run through the dungeon, torching everything you touch. Your W spell allows you to run faster by 30% for quite a bit of time. Your Q spell will be, well, still dealing great amount of damage. You're dealing 501 instead of 698. And so it's not too much better. Your E spell is a fire and forget on the crossbows, so you can shoot a mob with it and continue running to the next pack. that will explode, killing everything around it. This build is faster than the Boltcaster build only at maximum specs. Otherwise, the Boltcaster build is much faster for dungeons. I did forget to mention the food of choice when doing solo dungeons. The cabbage soup will keep you healed in between pulls, so you don't have to stop and rest. And it's vitally important because the Spectre Jacket will drain your HP when you are on fire. That's how the jacket works. So it is mandatory to use cabbage soup. Next, I will show you a weapon swap to solo bosses in group dungeons that you can solo. Now, the build I outlined earlier with the Shadow Caller and the Great Axe, you can use that exact same build to solo group dungeons. But there are a few bosses that are just too tough to solo, so you need this weapon, the Druidic Staff. And we're using the Thorn Growth, the Protection of Nature. Sometimes on some bosses, you can use Revitalize for better results. You'll have to learn which bosses that's better to use with. Usually bosses with a long animation or channel time, this is superior. Revitalize, that is. Okay. And you use the same things. You use the Scholar Cowl and the Guardian Boots. You use the Snow Husky to get from dungeon to dungeon. Though I recommend a boar instead of a Snow Husky because when you're doing group dungeons, your entire inventory will become very full very fast. So you can just use a high tier bag and a Snow Husky, or you can just use a boar and a low tier bag. It's up to you. You'll need to use the roast pork though, and for your offhand, you'll use the torch because you need the cooldown and the attack speed to solo these bosses before they enrage and before they use their kill combos. Also for armor, you'll be using the Mercenary Jacket, and the reason you're using Mercenary Jacket is because it combines very well with Protection of Nature, almost doubling the healing from it. So as you're fighting the boss, you'll cast Thorns under it and auto-attack it, and that's basically it. Once you lose 2 squares of HP, you'll cast W and then E on yourself, and that will heal around 1.5 to 2 squares, just about. If you become low on health, you'll cast W on yourself, and then you'll cast your R spell, and that's going to be your full heal, essentially, that you can cast every minute. So W into R, and then your auto attacks will heal you a tremendous amount. I'm being healed 259 HP every single time I attack while that is active. It is a huge amount of HP. You also use your defensives whenever there is a boss that does a move that drains your HP. Some bosses you have to time your defensives perfectly or you will die from them. Oh, and here's the text scroll I guess I forgot. It's for the people not listening to my voice, I suppose, which... Now, this is a very unique and cheeky build. This is used in faction warfare to tag the enemy players without dismounting so that you can get free faction points without ever actually having to lift a finger. Now, if you are dismounted, this build also allows you to get away pretty much every single time without ever dying. So here's how it works. You ride into the enemy's, big blob, and you push F on the horse, and you roast everybody. There was a rabbit in the grass there that got caught on fire. But you just touch everyone with that little fire, and that's all you have to do. Now, if you're running into a giant blob that's really, really big, you can't survive. So do not use that F ability. Otherwise, you will die. Instead, let them dismount you. And the second that they dismount you, you'll cast your armor's ability called Enfeeble Aura, which reduces all the damage taken by 60%. This will tag all the enemy players this touches. Once your health gets below 40%, that means when you have only 2 bars of yellow remaining, push your helmet's D key to give yourself a shield, push your boot ability to run away quickly, and use your W and E spells to leap away from the enemy. By doing so, your Undead Cape might trigger by the time that you start activating these, and you will be able to run at super hyper speeds with your boot ability from the Demon Boots. Because you're low on HP, this thing will make you run incredibly fast. So not only are you fast, you're tanky, you're invisible, they're dealing less damage to you. You have a beef sandwich that gives you 13.5% max HP. That would push me over 4,000. So you're not going to die. You're going to be able to get away, and you're going to be able to remount up, and then trample people with your flaming trail of fire, which will put you, as long as you touch an enemy player in faction warfare, you are counted as a combatant in the fight, giving you faction points when they die or you capture a zone. And here is the text. Woo! This is all the details. Yeah, yeah. All right. This is the I push one button and kill a group of people in faction warfare build. It is an 8.4 masterpiece longbow, and the way it works is you cast your W's explosive arrows ability, and then when you want to kill a group of players, you cast E on them, and they're dead. Though there's a little bit more to it than that, okay? The way it works is you're going to dismount off-screen away from the outpost that they are capping. You're going to activate Wanderlust, and you're going to let it max out its stacks. Okay, you're going to wait till this says 8 at the top left here. When it says 8, then you're going to run in, because you're going to be running really fast. You're going to push your D key, your R key, your W, and your E. I don't have energy for it, though. But that's because I casted it earlier and I'm using flat 4. By the way, you want to use flat 4 so your repair bill is shorter. And then once you run in, you just push E on the biggest cluster you can find, and you're going to kill a bunch of people. And then they're going to kill you instantly. But it's a worthy trade. You kill a bunch of them, they kill one of you, and you basically win. So here's the text scroll. The face scale hat prevents you from being interrupted while channeling. The cleric robe prevents you from taking damage while you channel. So one-shot builds won't be able to murk you. The soldier boots lets you run in and surprise everybody. Beef stew for more damage, keeper cape for more damage, and any mount is fine. It's a fun build, but man, does it take like, I spent 200 million on this meme. And now my favorite 1v1 PvP build in the entire game is the Druidic Staff. It's basically the same as the boss soloing build, but with a few differences. We're using a Hunter Hood because the Hunter Hood reflects damage. This is your only defense against a one-shot build, which is really, honestly, this build's only true weakness. If a one-shot build targets you, you push your helmet ability, and then they die. You tank the hit, and then you top yourself back off. It's that simple. And the Mercenary Jacket, again, keeps you healed up if your other heals fail you. The Soldier Boots are used for chase or escape. And for food, we're using the Pork Omelet for cooldown reduction and cast speed. And that's basically it. Here's the text if you need it. Pork Omelet, that for cape, healing potion, any mount. Pretty simple stuff. For Yellow Zone ganking, for faction PvP and faction transport ganking, this is my go-to build. The Bear Paws with Q3W2 passive 1, the Stalker Jacket, the Mage Cowl, Thetford Cape, Beef Stew, Royal Sandals, Poison Potion. And of course, Elite Terror Bird, which is Bridge Watch only, because what I do is I dismount off someone's screen, and this big yellow circle will give me a run speed buff, which will let me sit here, and then I'm going to run at them and activate all of my, just every passive ability I can, and just wail into them by mashing my space bar and my Q button. If I want to throw a potion, I can, and it just deals so much damage. It deals so much damage so fast to a mounted target that it will dismount nearly everything. Tier 8 Oxes do take a bit, and, well, Bears, of course you can't dismount those. But essentially, if I dismount someone doing a transport, either I'm going to get to break a bunch of their stuff, or if they're transporting hearts, I get some free hearts. It's great for Yellow Zone ganking. It is my ultimate Yellow Zone bully build now. I absolutely love it. And the text crawl, bear paws, bear paws, bear paws. Well, that's all of my favorite builds. There's plenty of other builds on my channel, like really, really good arena builds, dagger builds, frost staff builds. Just click on my channel name and search any phrase or keyword you can think of about this game. If you have any questions, search that. Just search my channel. I have over 450 videos. You're bound to find an answer at one of them. Alright, so anyway, I'm Swole Benji. Thanks for watching. As always, be a bro and stay swole. I read every single comment, so let me know if there's anything that you want to see or talk about, and I'll read it. I may not answer, may not reply to every comment, but I do read them all. Videos every single day on this channel. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss tomorrow's video. If this helped you out and you want to help me out financially, click that join button down below. I've got even more builds like Corrupted Dungeon builds for members only, builds that are too good for the public. Go ahead and become a channel member. $5 a month. It's like subscribing on Twitch, but it's on YouTube. And with that said, on the right side of your screen is video you should absolutely click. Go ahead and give that a click and make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.